did some things to some powerful people that they're calling in their friends and everything, and everybody's taking their hands off of him. So now he's no longer the altar boy.
Get her back into the corner, and he was like cussing her out with his hand in her face.
Later that night, Red, who was staying at Cassie's home, says she awoke to screaming.
He's standing in the living room area, and she's there, and he was like, emotional singing, there you are.
I am heartbroken that Cassie must relive the horror of her abuse, and my heart goes out to her. I know exactly how she feels, and through my empathy, it has triggered my own trauma.
They turn around and give him the key to the city. All the mayor people that he brought on here in New York City are all resigning.
There are more sinister things at play in the Diddy lawsuit, and this time we'll be looking at two different aspects. One is proof of Diddy's history of abuse towards his women, and second, how his transformation into a monster was aided by several powerful people, including politicians. It's obvious that there's much more to Diddy's case than the feds have said as of yet. Let's first start with the recent developments in Diddy's case. Former FBI and CIA agent Tracy Walder commented on how she was sure it would take around 6 months for the indictment to come out, and it's because they needed to be very, very thorough.
Yeah, I had expected, I'd said before that I thought we'd get an indictment within 6 to 9 months. People weren't happy with me because they thought that was just too long, but it was almost exactly 6 months actually since the warrants were served on both of his homes. I think it's not a surprise to me because I'm glad he's being charged with this. I wholeheartedly thought that he would have a RICO, a racketeering charge. I knew that would be something that they would get him on. I was concerned that they wouldn't get him on human trafficking because sometimes that can be really difficult to prove. And I just always worry that those cases fall through the cracks and then justice isn't served for the victims. And so I was pleased to see that he was charged with that, so that hopefully he could be held accountable.
Walder discussed how Diddy could be charged for all the drugs he'd been housing, and there were high chances the feds could work on tracing exactly who supplied them to him.
I think that that's a possibility, especially based on what we saw with Matthew Perry and the ketamine queen and the doctors and all the other, I think 5 individuals who were ultimately charged in that. They may be going on different sort of avenues in terms of charging. I don't think they're done in terms of charging. And I do think with this recent crackdown on this, that they very well may go after those individuals, whomever the suppliers were.
She also talked about how horrific it was that the feds found so many lubricants and that the victims were left in such extreme conditions that they needed IV fluids to recover.
A way to say this, based on what was in the indictment regarding these freak-offs that's what they call them in here. I think that's what Diddy called them, quite frankly. The severity at which they were, the length and duration at which they were, I'm actually not surprised that that's what was collected ultimately from his home. It's absolutely horrific. The fact that some of these victims needed IV rehydration afterwards, couldn't go out because they were so injured as a result of this. It's absolutely horrific. And now, based on what we've learned of the magnitude of those freak-offs, it's unfortunately not surprising.
Retired FBI agent Colin Schmidt and former litigator Robin Nunn sat down to talk about Diddy's case and pointed out the sheer number of witnesses the FBI had put together in order to prosecute this case.
This was focused enough and had enough meat that I feel like it'll be very difficult, to sort of get out of these allegations. It seems like they've interviewed a number of witnesses. I think they said at least 50 victims and witnesses that have already been sort of interviewed and have agreed to cooperate in this, and I'm sure that there are many more, and they're even looking for more. So I think that they feel pretty strongly that they've put together a strong package, and I think they're pretty confident.
Schmidt also pointed out how the FBI managed to amass such a large number of witnesses, saying that once you manage to interview some people, it's easier to get others since the type of people Diddy targeted usually belong to the same circle.
Well, 2 points here. Number one, he corroborated his behavior himself with that video that came out of him assaulting his girlfriend in the hotel, which was somewhat hard to watch as a father of a daughter and somebody who's been in law enforcement. Secondly, you talk to one person and the most basic question you ask at the beginning, middle, or the end of the interview, is there anybody else? Oh yeah, I have this girlfriend that also suffered this type of behavior from him. And then you go to that person. And then, oh yeah, I got this person. I get this. So it ends up being a string or a network of people, because frankly, these women are most likely associates with each other or know each other, and they may even be close friends, and they've been in the circle that was basically targeted by Sean p.diddy Combs, as well as the people around him that were assisting him in this behavior.
Speaking of preying on women, a few months ago, a friend of Cassie actually spoke up about having seen her high and the way Diddy screamed at her when she didn't comply with him. She recounted one incident where she truly realized how dangerous of a man he was and what he might be capable of.
One of which took place during Cassie's 29th birthday in 2015. Red says Diddy showed up at karaoke, where Cassie and a group of friends were celebrating.
So he had her backed into the corner, and he was like cussing her out with his hand in her face.
Later that night, Red, who was staying at Cassie's home, says she awoke to screaming.
He's standing in the living room area, and she's there, and he was like, emotional singing, there you are. And I just was like, oh, he's talking to me. And I remember, I don't know if you know what his voice sounds like, but I felt like I was in the presence of his monster inside. And I remember looking in his eyes, and I said to him, what did y'all do? Because I could see that she was really sedated. That was the first time I ever seen her high before. And then he says, tell your girl she wants some birthday. And we were like, well, I mean, he's saying this to me, and I'm like, well, she doesn't have to have sex with you if she doesn't want to. He was upset, I guess that she didn't want to do with him whatever he wanted. I don't know. I don't feel like I could advocate for myself in that moment. I realized oh, this guy is dangerous.
Red says it was only a few months ago.
An ex-makeup artist for Diddy and Cassie also recounted an incident where Cassie came out of a room badly beaten after a screaming match.
They went into the bedroom and shut the door, and all I could hear is screaming and yelling, and whatever was going on in there, I don't know. But all I could think of was to grab Cassie's things and start packing it up and just getting her out to safety and bringing her to my house. So that's kind of what transpired from that night. And once she came out of the room, she was badly, beaten.
Another woman who has allegedly been abused by Diddy is his own baby mama, Misa Hilton. She's the mother of Diddy's oldest son, Justin Combs, and she said seeing the leaked 2016 Cassie video brought up her own trauma.
Combs' children on Instagram yesterday, including her son Justin, with this message: I am heartbroken that Cassie must relive the horror of her abuse, and my heart goes out to her. I know exactly how she feels, and through my empathy, it has triggered my own trauma. Her post continued with photos of all of Combs' children. These young people were raised by women that want the best for them. We put God and education first and have always been united in our mutual effort to support their dreams. Two of the youngest do not have their mother here, and it has been our duty to support them. Their father needs help, and I am praying that he truly does the personal work and receives it. Wow. At the beginning of Misa's statement, she said that seeing the video of Cassie, which is absolutely awful, everybody agrees, triggered her own trauma. So was Misa implying that she had been harmed by Combs? Here's a story that Jean Deal.
What she was talking about has been corroborated by Diddy's ex-bodyguard, Jean Deal, who revealed that even after he quit working for Diddy, Misa used to call him and he used to bodyguard her because she was afraid to be out without protection because of her ex.
I used to bodyguard her. And that's because she was afraid to be out. Because she didn't want, if she was out with somebody or she was out doing her thing, she didn't want him to say or do anything to her or nobody else. It was for other people too. You understand? So this only proves that the information that I heard somebody.
He said her statement proved that the things he had heard about Diddy beating up Misa were true. He recounted one incident where he heard he beat her so bad she tried to hide under a car to get away from him.
And they told me that Puff beat him because of the Eric Sermon. He thought she was dating Eric Sermon, or Eric Sermon had dropped him out. He was in a white Mercedes Benz. He had dropped her off. He got mad and started beating on her. When he caught up with her. This only proved that one thing happened and some other things probably happened. And it was so crazy, man. You know, the way they explained it, that, he beat that woman till she was crawling up under a car, man. No matter how small she was crawling up under the car, man. You got to be real scared, man. That's crazy. I know it ain't funny, but it's crazy. He was beating her till she ran up under the car, man.
Wow, man. So it got that bad, man?
The way they was explaining to me, man.
Deal also recounted the way Diddy used to control Kim Porter, even when he was with Jennifer Lopez. He also said that he could see him controlling Cassie that way because he had contacts and power when she was just a little girl. If he could do that to a woman he claimed to love and had multiple children with, why not Cassie? He also said that while he never abused anyone in front of him, you could tell something had happened when a woman came out bruised and he was ordered to go buy her something to pay her off.
I'd never seen him treat Miss Lopez like that. You understand? Even when he was going behind her back and still dealing with Kim, he didn't want Kim to deal with nobody, bruh. Like I said, I can't speak on Cassie or her statements like that, but I can reflect on the way he treated Kim. We would leave Jennifer's house. He would call a babysitter. If Kim was out on the town, we was going to every spot in New York City that the babysitter thought she was at. Do you hear me? Even when he wasn't dealing with her, he wanted complete control over her life, over what she did and how she did it. So that's not hard to believe. And plus she was way younger than Kim.
This might explain why Kimora Lee, a close friend of Kim Porter, is so protective of her twin daughters in particular.
Diddy's ex, Kim Porter.
When I lost Kim, it broke my heart forever.
Kimora stepping in to help raise the girls after Kim's 2018 death. And now, over 5 years later, Kimora telling her late friend's kids, "I love you always and will protect you fiercely to the end with all I have."
Gene Deal also implied that part of the reason Diddy's case is so publicized is because he's messed with the wrong people. He said there was a reason Interscope co-founder Jimmy Iovine's case isn't on TV, but Diddy is. His claims match the rumors floating around the Diageo lawsuit Diddy put forward, made higher-ups feel offended.
Why you don't see it on the news? People have been coming out saying things that he said that he did to them, but because his publicists and the people that be is not allowing that to go down on him. Puff did some things to some powerful people that they're calling in their friends and everything, and everybody's taking their hands off of him. So now he's no longer the altar boy, and he's not in their club anymore. Did you hear him on Jimmy Kimmel? He said, "Yo, I thought we was friends." Jimmy Kimmel knew he wasn't supposed to ask Puff anything about me, but he's not part of the boys club anymore.
Of course, this would be a full circle moment because Diddy was brought up to what he is today by the very people in power. Deal said he wasn't born a monster, he was made into one. He started doing to people what was done to him. He recounted that there was a time he never did drugs or smoked weed, but things changed over time.
You know, it's all about the people who trained and taught him the music business, because Puff wasn't he wasn't born a monster. You know what I'm saying? He was made into a monster, brother. Do you understand what I'm saying? He was made into a monster. from the stuff that happened to him, the things that he had to do. You understand? The things that he had to do to become who he is. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like this, brother. You never like something so much that you can't do without, and you never be willing to do anything to get where you want to be at. You gotta have principles, you gotta have morals, you gotta keep with that stuff. And in that music business, a lot of that stuff get thrown out the window. You understand? And that's what happened to him. He started doing the things to other people that was done to him.
Diddy could also just be the fall guy for all the politicians caught on tape at the freak-offs. Obviously, they wouldn't want him snitching on them or revealing anything to the public. They probably want his mouth shut and him to stay in jail. But the feds are on to certain politicians as well, because the mayor of New York might be on their hit list. Rather than politicians wanting him in jail, the feds want to clean them up in turn.
Because you know who else they was doing investigation on during that whole time period? It was the mayor and the politicians in New York City. They turn around and give him the key to the city. All the mayor people that he brought on here in New York City are all resigning. They all resigning. People ain't gonna tie this together, but if you look at it, you have to say, because of Mayor Adams and his relationship with Diddy, it brought on the Southern District of New York to start investigating Diddy on civil lawsuits that was put against him. Because the feds is going after all these politicians in New York City.
Will we see the feds reveal more shocking details about the Diddy fiasco? And just how far is everything going to go? Let's wait and see. That's it for now. Don't forget to tell us what you think in the comments below. For more updates, hit the bell icon.